Warning disclaimer, this story is a work of fiction, written purely for entertainment purposes. All characters, events, and situations depicted are imaginary. Any resemblance to real individuals, places, or events is entirely coincidental. This story contains emotional, dramatic, and romantic elements intended for mature readers. Reader discretion is advised. It was a rainy Thursday afternoon when Emily received the email that would change everything. Sitting quietly at her desk in the corner of the bustling open-plan office, she was halfway through sorting out a pile of reports when the notification popped up in the corner of her screen. Subject: Private Meeting Emily. Please come to my office at 6:15 p.m. today. I'd like to speak with you privately. A.B. Her breath caught in her throat. Adrian Blake, the young, powerful CEO of Blake & Company, rarely interacted with lower-level employees unless it was a disciplinary matter or a high-level acknowledgement. She had never spoken to him directly for more than 2 sentences. Emily read the email again to make sure she hadn't misunderstood it. She hadn't. It was clear and direct, with no explanation. Just a simple invitation that felt like a command. She glanced around the room. No one else seemed to have gotten the same email. Her heart pounded harder. Had she done something wrong? Had she missed a deadline? Forgotten a file? Her mind raced through everything she had worked on in the last few days. The clock ticked on, dragging the afternoon like wet clothes on a line. Rumors swirled among her coworkers once they noticed her discomfort. "Why is Adrian calling her in?" one whispered. "Is she getting fired?" said another. Emily tried to shut it all out, but the tension was building. The more she thought about it, the more it scared her. At exactly 6:12 p.m., she stood up, straightened her blouse, and walked nervously toward the elevator. Each step felt heavy, as if the hallway itself was stretching. When she reached the executive floor, the silence hit her like a wall. No chatter, no phones ringing, just the soft hum of lights and the thick carpet swallowing her footsteps. Adrian's office door was slightly open, as if expecting her. She raised her hand and knocked gently. "Come in," his calm voice responded from inside. Emily pushed the door open and stepped in. The office was immaculate, with floor-to-ceiling windows showing the rain still pouring outside. Adrian stood near his desk, hands in his pockets, looking out the window as if lost in thought. He turned slowly to face her, offering a soft but unreadable smile. "Emily, thanks for coming," he said, gesturing for her to sit. She sat down, trying to calm her racing heart. But the tension in the air was undeniable. Whatever this was about, it wasn't just business. And she had no idea what was about to unfold. Emily sat stiffly in the plush leather chair, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Her mind raced with questions, but she forced herself to keep still, her eyes watching her young CEO carefully. Adrian Blake was only 28, but his sharp mind and magnetic presence had taken Blake & Company to record-breaking profits. He was known to be composed, confident, and ruthlessly efficient. But right now he looked different. He walked around his desk slowly and sat down across from her. For a few moments, he said nothing, just studied her with that intense gaze that made her want to shrink into herself. The air between them was thick, silent, but charged. Emily cleared her throat gently. "You wanted to see me, sir?" He smiled faintly, breaking the silence. "Yes, I did." Another pause. Adrian looked down for a second, then leaned forward, placing his elbows on the desk and lacing his fingers together. "I've been reviewing performance reports," he began. "Not just numbers. People." Emily tensed. Was this about her performance? He continued. "Your report on the Evergreen contract last month, it was detailed, strategic, and honest. You were the only one who flagged the risk in Clause 17. If you hadn't, we could have lost millions." Her eyes widened. She hadn't even realized he'd read that report. She had sent it up the chain as protocol, assuming it would be skimmed and archived like most internal analyses. I was just doing my job," she said quickly. "You were doing it exceptionally well," Adrian replied, his voice steady. "And quietly. No one even noticed, but me." Emily didn't know what to say. A wave of both pride and unease washed over her. This didn't feel like a performance review. It felt personal. Then he leaned back, studying her once more. "Tell me something, Emily," he said suddenly. "Are you happy here?" The question caught her completely off guard. She hesitated, then blinked. "I mean, I guess so. That's not a real answer." She swallowed hard. "It's not something I think about much, honestly." "Well, maybe you should," he said, softer this time. "You're bright. Efficient. But you've buried yourself in a corner of this office like you don't want to be seen." Emily felt her cheeks warm with a mix of embarrassment and confusion. "I just don't like attention." "I've noticed," he said. "But you deserve more than being invisible." Her breath caught in her throat again. What was he really trying to say? Adrian stood up, walking to the floor-to-ceiling windows once again. The city lights were starting to glow under the darkening sky. "You know," he said, not facing her, "I read something of yours the other night." She blinked. "Something of mine?" He turned, eyes narrowing just slightly. "Your blog." Silence. Her heart stopped. "You read my blog?" He nodded slowly. "And it hit me in a way I didn't expect." Emily stared at him, unsure if she should feel exposed, complimented, or terrified. Whatever this meeting was, it had just shifted in a direction she could never have imagined. Emily stared at Adrian, stunned. "My blog," she repeated, her voice a breathless whisper. Adrian gave a slow nod, his expression serious. "Yes. Whispers after work, right?" She instinctively sat back, almost as if someone had physically pushed her. That blog was her secret space, a personal, anonymous journal where she poured her thoughts after long workdays. She never mentioned her real name. She didn't even use her own photo. How did he know? "I don't. I never told anyone about that," she said softly. "I know," he replied, walking back to his desk. "But one of your posts came up in a writing forum I follow. Your words felt familiar, so I read more. Then I realized it was you." Emily felt her face burning now. She wanted to disappear. "You shouldn't have read it," she murmured, her voice cracking. "That's private." "I'm sorry," Adrian said sincerely. "I didn't mean to violate your space. I didn't know it was yours at first. But once I figured it out, I couldn't stop reading." Emily gripped the armrest of her chair. She didn't know if she felt violated, embarrassed, or something else entirely. He spoke again, voice gentle this time. There was one post about the invisible girl in the office. How she felt like wallpaper. How she blended in so well that people forgot she was even in the room. "I read that, and I realized something, how little I knew about the people keeping this place running." Emily stayed quiet, biting her lip. "You have talent, Emily. Real talent. The kind of voice that people stop and listen to. And yet you hide it behind numbers and emails." "Why?" She shook her head. "Because no one ever asked to hear it." That silenced him. Adrian leaned forward, elbows on the desk, studying her again. This time, there was no businesslike formality in his eyes. Just something sincere. Something searching. "I'm asking now," he said quietly. Emily's heart thudded, so loud she was sure he could hear it. Was this some kind of dream? Her intimidating, brilliant boss, not only noticing her work but her writing, her private thoughts? It was surreal. "I don't know what to say," she finally whispered. "You don't have to say anything," Adrian said. "I just wanted you to know. I see you. More than just another employee. You have a voice that could change things." She looked up, eyes glossy but clear. "Why me?" Adrian gave a faint smile. "Because you're the first person in a long time who wrote something that made me feel something." That moment stretched between them. The world outside his office blurred into rain and silence. Emily had walked into the room expecting a lecture or a layoff. But she was starting to realize this was something far more complicated. And far more personal. The silence lingered like a question neither of them was ready to answer. Adrian stood from his chair and paced slowly behind his desk, deep in thought. Emily remained seated, unsure what was happening. Compliments from a CEO were one thing, but this level of personal interest? It felt dangerous, electrifying, unpredictable. Then he stopped and turned to her with purpose. "I want to offer you something," he said. Emily blinked. "Offer me what?" "A role. Off the record, for now, Adrian replied, walking around the desk and perching on its edge in front of her. Something only a few people know about. You'll be working directly with me on it. She furrowed her brows. Working with you? On what? A full rebrand of the company, he said, lowering his voice slightly. The public doesn't know yet. Even most of the executive board doesn't. But we're changing direction. A shift in our identity, our voice, our values. Emily sat up straighter, completely caught off guard. I want to tell stories, Adrian continued. Real ones. Human ones. Not just sell services and sound impressive with numbers. Your writing, your voice, has the exact tone I want this company to embody. Authentic, bold, and vulnerable. But I'm just an assistant, she whispered. Why me? Because assistants don't lie to impress. They don't write for attention. They write the truth when no one's watching. That's exactly what this company needs right now. Emily's head spun. This felt like a fantasy. But I don't have marketing experience. I'm not trained in brand development. You'll have support, he cut in smoothly. I'll walk you through every part of it. You'll be a ghostwriter on internal documents, campaign drafts, and public speeches. You'll shape the new voice of the company. Quietly, but powerfully. Her mind filled with fear and excitement. This was a huge opportunity. A leap into a world she never imagined herself entering. But there was risk too, especially if people found out. And the team, she asked carefully. Wouldn't they question why you're suddenly trusting me with something this sensitive? Adrian nodded. They will. That's why, for now, this will stay between us. You'll still hold your current position publicly. But behind the scenes, you'll be at the core of something much bigger. Emily looked up at him. And what happens if I say no? He didn't flinch. Then we pretend this conversation never happened. And I'll still respect you deeply for what you've already done. She swallowed hard. The rain still drizzled behind the office windows. The city glowed in a quiet hush, as if it too was holding its breath. Everything in her life had been routine, invisible, muted. Until now. She looked him in the eye. When do I start? Adrian smiled, not the charming public smile he wore for clients, but something quieter. Realer. Tonight, he said. We're ordering Chinese and mapping out the future. And just like that, Emily stepped into a world she wasn't prepared for, but had always secretly dreamed of. What started as one secret meeting turned into many. Within days, Emily found herself leaving the office late every evening, heading to the executive floor where Adrian would be waiting, sometimes with his sleeves rolled up, sometimes barefoot, always with takeout boxes scattered across his polished glass table. They brainstormed, debated, and built the company's new identity from scratch. It was exhausting, but also thrilling. Emily had never seen this side of him, the man behind the CEO title. Adrian wasn't always the confident, sharp-dressed leader the world saw. Sometimes he was quiet, almost hesitant. He fiddled with his pen when he was nervous. He bit his thumb when he was lost in thought. And he laughed deep, real laughter when she shared sarcastic jokes about corporate life. The more time they spent together, the more the dynamic shifted. The line between boss and employee began to blur. One night, as they sat cross-legged on the floor with folders spread out between them, Adrian passed her a fortune cookie. She cracked it open and read the message aloud. Your voice will echo beyond what you ever imagined. They both looked at each other and laughed. But the way his gaze lingered made her heart flutter. He watched her differently now, not like an assistant or a project partner, but like someone he genuinely wanted to understand. You know, Adrian said quietly one evening, you're the first person I've let in like this. The real me. Emily looked down at her noodles, unsure how to respond. She felt it too, this growing connection. But she didn't want to name it. Not yet. The office rumors, though, were already swirling. People had noticed the way Adrian glanced at her in meetings, how she lingered around his office more often, how she suddenly seemed different, more confident, alive. One afternoon in the break room, two senior employees whispered as she walked in. She's either sleeping with him or blackmailing him, one of them muttered. Emily pretended not to hear, but the words stung. That night, she showed up to their session visibly shaken. Adrian noticed instantly. What happened? She shrugged. Nothing serious. Just office noise. He leaned in. If anyone's harassing you, I'll put a stop to it. It's not harassment, she replied. It's jealousy. They think there's something going on. His jaw clenched slightly. And is there? Emily blinked. Do you want there to be? He held her gaze, and for a moment the air between them was razor thin. Electricity hummed under the surface, but neither crossed the line. Not yet. Instead, Adrian leaned back and gave her a faint smile. Let's just focus on the project. Emily nodded, heart pounding. But in that moment, they both knew they were standing at the edge of something that couldn't stay hidden for much longer. And with every late-night session, every glance that lingered too long, they were inching closer to it. Everything began to unravel on a Monday morning. Emily arrived at the office early, as usual, her laptop under one arm and coffee in the other. But something felt different. The air was heavy with tension. People glanced at her, then quickly looked away. Whispers followed her down the hallway. A strange tightness coiled in her chest. When she got to her desk, an email from HR was already waiting for her. Subject: Urgent. Security inquiry. Please report to the 19th floor conference room at 10 a.m. regarding an internal investigation. Emily's stomach dropped. By 10 a.m., she was sitting across from two HR managers and the company's security officer. Their faces were expressionless. There's been a serious breach, one of them began, sliding a folder toward her. Confidential branding materials were leaked online last night. Design drafts. Messaging strategy. Internal files. Emily blinked. I had nothing to do with that. We traced the downloads to a device logged in with your company credentials, the officer said calmly. Her mouth went dry. What? Her mind raced. She had access to the documents, but only from Adrian's secure server and only while working late in his office. Had she made a mistake? Left something open? I would never do that, she whispered, panic rising. For now, your access is suspended, the HR manager said. You'll be placed on temporary leave while we complete the investigation. Emily sat frozen. Her ears buzzed. Her heart pounded so hard she thought she might faint. Later that afternoon, Adrian called her. His voice was low, measured, but distant. I didn't want this, he said. You know I didn't. Do you believe me? She asked, voice shaking. I want to, he replied. But the board is already demanding answers. It wasn't enough. He wasn't defending her. He wasn't fighting. He was protecting himself. That night, she sat in her tiny apartment staring at the blinking cursor on a blank Word doc, trying to find words to make sense of it all. How quickly everything had crumbled. The hope, the connection, the quiet spark between them, it was all buried now under suspicion and betrayal. But deep inside, she knew she hadn't made any mistake. Someone else wanted her out. The question was who? And then it hit her like a slap. Isla, Adrian's executive assistant. The one who had access to his calendar, his passwords, and possibly his project files. Isla had always kept her distance from Emily, but she had been there from the beginning, watching, calculating. The night she heard the rumors in the break room, Isla had been the one standing in the doorway. Emily's joy tightened. If she was going down, it wouldn't be in silence. Emily refused to disappear quietly. She spent the next 3 days retracing every digital step she had taken, emails sent, files accessed, devices used. But the more she searched, the more certain she became someone had deliberately framed her. And there was only one person with motive, access, and a quiet resentment burning just beneath the surface. Isla, Adrian's trusted executive assistant. Efficient, composed, territorial. Emily had noticed the looks Isla gave her during meetings. The subtle hostility, the cold silences. It hadn't registered as jealousy at the time. But now everything made sense. Using a backup of her browser activity, Emily found something strange. A file from the secure branding drive had been accessed and downloaded using her login 2 hours after she had already left the office that Friday night. There was only one problem. Her laptop was still at work that evening. Someone had used her computer while she wasn't there. Her heart raced. She rushed to IT, pretending she was preparing documentation for HR. A helpful technician, unaware of her suspension, let her review the access logs. Sure enough, the file was downloaded from her computer's IP, but the keystroke log showed a different typing pattern than hers. Slightly faster. Fewer backspaces. Sharper inputs. And the security camera near her desk? That footage sealed it. At 7:46 p.m., Isla was seen sitting at Emily's workstation. Alone. Calm. Typing. Emily copied the footage and emailed it directly to HR. Then, after a long breath, she sent a copy to Adrian. No subject line. No message. Just the video file. The next morning, her phone rang. Adrian. His voice was breathless. Emily, I don't know what to say. You don't have to, she said flatly. I believed the wrong person, he continued. I should have stood by you. I let you down. She was silent for a moment. Yes, you did. There was pain in his voice. Please come back. You deserve better. I'll make this right, publicly. Emily hesitated. This wasn't just about a job anymore. It was about respect. Trust. She finally spoke. Clear my name. Then we'll talk. And he did. The following day, in front of the executive team and department heads, Adrian made a bold move. He revealed the real culprit behind the leak, Isla, who had since resigned the night before after being confronted. He acknowledged Emily's brilliance, her loyalty, and the unjust treatment she had endured. When Emily walked back into the office the next day, people didn't whisper anymore. They watched her with new eyes. Not as the assistant who stayed invisible, but as the woman who had faced betrayal head-on and stood her ground. And Adrian? He was waiting outside her office. No words at first. Just a quiet look of remorse, and something else. Something warmer. I missed having you in the room, he said. Emily gave a small smile. I missed being in the room. The company gala was held on a warm Friday night, beneath glittering lights and a glass-domed ceiling that overlooked the skyline. Emily stood by the back wall, dressed in a sleek black gown, nothing too flashy, but far removed from her usual buttoned-up office attire. She sipped from a flute of sparkling water and watched the crowd from a distance, unsure if she truly belonged among the executives and elite clients. Then, the spotlight shifted. Adrian took the stage. The room fell silent. Wearing a navy blue tux and holding a small note card, he looked every bit the confident CEO. But when he began speaking, his tone was different, soft, thoughtful. Before I get to the official part of tonight, he said, eyes scanning the crowd, I want to share something personal. A ripple of curiosity passed through the room. This year, our company faced challenges. Not just financially, but morally. We nearly lost sight of the values that brought us here in the first place. Until someone reminded me what real integrity looks like. He paused, locking eyes with Emily across the room. She was invisible once. But not anymore. Murmurs rose. She helped build our voice, our identity, and our future. Tonight, I'm proud to officially name her our creative director of brand strategy. Gasps, applause, stares. Emily stood frozen. Everyone turned toward her as Adrian gestured, and for the first time, she didn't shrink from the attention. She walked toward the stage slowly, pulse thudding in her ears, her heels clicking like punctuation marks on the marble floor. Adrian held out his hand. She took it, and he leaned in slightly, not close enough to make it awkward, but enough for her to feel the quiet energy between them. You earned every second of this, he whispered. After the applause died down and the music returned, Emily stepped off the stage, heart still racing. Later that evening, as most guests danced and mingled, Adrian found her again, this time alone on the rooftop balcony. The city lights stretched endlessly behind him. You saved more than just the company's brand, he said. You reminded me that leadership isn't just about power, it's about trust. Emily smiled softly. And you reminded me I'm allowed to be seen. There was a pause. Then his voice dropped lower. I meant what I said. I missed you. Not just in the office. Her breath caught. I know this could complicate things, he continued. But I'd rather be honest than silent. Emily stepped closer. So would I. He looked at her for a long moment, then finally, gently, touched her hand. It wasn't a fairy tale kiss or a sweeping confession, but it was real, honest, earned. And it was just the beginning of something new, of someone finally stepping out of the shadows and into her own story. 43.